Shadow of the Vampire. It came out in 2000. It stars John Malkovich, who plays a director trying to create this silent film called Nosferatu. And Nosferatu is a film that actually did come out in 1922, and it is credited as being one of the most influential horror films of all time. Mostly because of, not only because of the directing, but also the haunting performance of Max Schreck, who played Count Orlok. And Nosferatu is sort of known as a loose and unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And a lot of the characters and such were changed for that silent film because they didn't have permission to make this movie, and it was, like I said, it was unauthorized, and which led to all sorts of legal troubles. And this movie Nosferatu almost never came to be. It almost was completely destroyed after its release. In fact, there were copies that were burned pretty much, and luckily years later it resurfaced, and it's part of film history. It's one of the most important films ever made. And in this movie, the director, Malkovich's character, is very obsessed with getting this movie well done and making sure that it's a masterpiece, because it's the first of its kind, really. There hasn't been a vampire movie of this scale before. And this is the 1920s. It's not something that has CGI. It's all reliant on directing, acting, and music too. So in this film, Shadow of the Vampire, it's sort of a mockumentary slash loosely based off of the history or the mythology, as you will, behind this film, because a lot of people thought that Max Schreck was really a vampire because his performance was so real, so chilling. It's one of those things where perhaps he was just a method actor, and this film sort of tackles all of those things at once. And I kind of went into it expecting it to be a little bit more realistic and have it deal more with the method acting type thing, because I'm super interested in that thing. One of my favorite actors, Heath Ledger, who of course passed away after doing his role in The Dark Knight as the Joker, and he became so enthralled into it that it literally almost drove him mad. And Max Schreck could very well have been one of the very first method actors, if not the first film method actor. This guy, so if you've seen Nosferatu, you know that this guy gives just an unbelievable performance. But let's talk about Shadow of the Vampire, which talks about that movie. Shadow of the Vampire is, if you go in expecting it to be more realistic, I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed, because I was at first, until I really had time to absorb the film for what it was. The performances all around are fantastic. The actors who play the crew are very believable. They're very believable as silent film actors, and it's kind of interesting to see how that film world used to work, because it's not like it is now, where there's all these fancy sets. They very much had to do sort of film was very in its infancy at that time. So there's a lot of techniques that didn't exist that we take for granted now. And it's amazing to watch somebody's perception of this, almost 80 years later, because obviously by the time this film was made, everybody that ever worked on Nosferatu is most likely dead or almost 100 years old. So let's get to William Dafoe. That's what drew me to the movie initially, because I love William Dafoe. He is a terrific actor, and he's been great in pretty much everything I've seen him in. And anything that he wasn't great in, it's not his fault. Great Wall. Excuse me. he is fantastic as Shrek. He captures the essence of what you could see on the original film screen, and I think this could very well be Defoe's best performance ever. He's very frightening. You never know where his character is going to go, or if the character has indeed gone too far. And the same goes for John Malkovich's character as the director. This guy is so obsessed with getting his vision. He even forgets about a thing called humanity. There are parts of the film where he doesn't give a shit about his crew or the actors. He just wants to get a good shot or for his film to carry forward. He's more worried about his film getting postponed than somebody getting hurt on set. And it's interesting to see how that sort of thing can affect people. And the movie is really more of a study of that sort of thing. How one's vision can get so distorted because they're obsessed with getting there in the first place. And it deals with the consequences of that. It's more of a drama than actual horror. I mean, there's some disturbing parts, but it's not terrifying in the way that you won't be on your seat because you're scared of a certain part or whatever. You'll be on your seat because you'll be interested to know where the story is going to go next. But I would recommend this to anybody who loves old films like me. I love very old films, and it was cool to see this, to sort of see a loose interpretation of what the making of this film might have been, and to sort of take the lore or the tall tales surrounding the making of the film Nosferatu, which I will be reviewing at some point, because I don't think I've gotten to talk about silent films, and I love that whole era. The whole era is just, it's super interesting to see where film was at its infancy. So, Shadow of the Vampire, have you seen it? What do you think of it? Have you seen Nosferatu? Do you like silent films in general? Do you like black and white films? Comment below, let me know what you think. And as always, if you'd like to see more, subscribe below.